I was at the lowest of the lows. I was in a very dark place in my mind. I was at, my rock bottom. My dad was a typical geezer. He was a football hooligan on the weekends, quite racist, with some very judgmental opinions about the world. The only direction of guidance that I was having was what he was, the football violence, the racism. And for me, I wanted to become that person so then he could love me more. I never got the cuddles, I never got that affection, so in a way I think I was trying to fill that gap, I was trying to fill that hole in soul. I was trying to get him to give me that cuddle by becoming him, shouting at racist remarks. I was arrested for racism as a child, I was arrested for violence as a child. Everything that my dad was doing, I seemed to be copying. There was a few people that used to go around and do armed robberies on post offices and travel agents, and I become like a driver. To commit crime, it was like a buzz, it was like another drug, and it used to just rush, sweat. It made you feel alive, it made you feel great, it was exhilarating. And even when I used to sit in the car waiting for people to do it, I used to know and think to myself that this was so wrong, that I was on the wrong path. But somehow the drugs and the lifestyle took over. When my drug journey first began, it felt like I was actually living life. It was positive. I had lots of confidence, I had girls, I had money, I had these new feelings, these new sort of ecstatic energies running through my body. But then when it started to turn into a habit and the fun times started to slowly die away, it turned into a very dark, dismal place. I started to get paranoid. I started to realise that I needed the drugs to feel normal. I lived on a whim, I lived on a lie constantly from day to day. I was dishonest with drug dealers, I was dishonest with family and friends, I was ripping people off. But the most important person that I was dishonest to was myself. I got myself into such a big drug debt that I couldn't afford to pay it back. I ticked about £5,000–6,000 worth of coke and crack, and I took all the drugs personally myself after a few weeks. So I had to ask my mum to get a loan out to pay for my drug debt. I actually pictured myself going to prison so I could have this escapism from the real world, so I could get away from the dealers, so I could get away from all the lies, from all the friends and family that I was letting down. A few weeks later I ended up in prison. I tried to pretend that life was great, life was good, but behind closed doors, I used to cry myself to sleep, contemplate suicide. I picked up tablets, but I never went through with it. I picked up the scissors to, cut my wrists, but I never went through with it. I was negatively in this self-destructive depression that was constantly just telling myself just to finish it, just to end it. I was at the lowest of the lows. I was in a very dark place in my mind. And I'm not saying that, I don't know, whether I had a choice or whether I thought about it, it just happened. I just stopped, froze, and just sort of looked inside myself. I found an amazing book when I was in prison. Started to look at this book, look at the art and practice of mindfulness, and understand that there was something different inside to what I'd labelled myself and maybe what a lot of other people had labelled me. I understood that that beauty was inside. I understood that I could generate it, I could get it out, and I could start to change my life with some very small steps. And the first one was just to stop and look inside, look at my position in the world, just to become aware of what tape loops were playing in the back of my mind. It just felt like every time I was doing a bad act, or I was lying, or I was cheating, I was taking drugs, or I was committing crime, that it wasn't me, it wasn't the person that I should be. felt like there was two paths, and for some reason I was still walking that path because of these old beliefs, because of these old patterns. And I felt the path that I had to be taking was the one that's, you know, more congruent for me, the one that had a feel-good factor. So every time I went against it, I felt like I was coming away from the path, which made me feel worse. I wanted to come back. I wanted to come back onto that right path. Now this is a beautiful day.
I know, that's what I was just going to say.
Isn't it? And then I had my little girl, I had Ella Louise. And when she was born, you know, I remember when on the first night I held her and I felt that same feeling again. Although I was still taking drugs and still on that wrong path, I felt like something was trying to push me or direct me onto the other path. And so I started to work with it. I started to understand it, and that's when life started to change.
You feel the wind?
Yeah, I'm going to beat you.
Can you what? Feel it?
I'm going to beat you.
You're going to beat
I started to have more beliefs, you know, that was wrong, this was right, shouldn't be doing that, I should be doing this. I started to feel good about myself, have some morals, have some sort of, you know, some awareness around what I was doing, awareness around choices in life.
Hello?
Hello? Can you see the sea?
Yeah. Is that the harvester?
Yeah, it's the harvester.
Yeah.
Why would you have it blue? How, would you have the door blue or the ceiling blue?
Every single part. Hello?
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 I'm actually being as opposed to sort of really going through the experience and not noticing what's going on around me. Relationships, people's smiles, connections, nature. I'm really sort of experiencing the moment as it comes and taking my time. I'm not rushing around, I'm not worried about it, and it's making it a lot lighter and a lot brighter. Like my eyes have opened a lot wider.
High five, yay! Good morning, guys. Thank you very much for coming. Really looking forward to today. We're going to have loads of fun up the trees. It's all about team building, connecting with each other, and it's all about you lot just really sort of like expressing yourself.
As an adult, he's turned his life around, and like, he works with kids and young adults like me who've like had not a bad childhood, but I say like a stressful one, getting in trouble with the police, like getting kicked out of schools, getting kicked out of homes, in and out of foster care and that lot, and he bonds with every single one of them.
Good girl.
They're kind of lost, or they're kind of like not connected, so they come from disadvantaged backgrounds like drugs, alcohol or crime, because that was my kind of background. Once I looked at myself, I was able to help them, just kind of rub off on them really.
Brilliant.
He's helping younger kids, he's like getting them to do something instead of like being at home doing nothing. He's really inspired me by that, by getting younger kids just to help the community and making it a better place than what it was before.
I was having bad moments, like I lost my mum, I lost my uncle, I've lost my granddad, and I don't think if it weren't for this man, I don't think I could have handled it any easier.
Christian's going through a lot, he's struggling quite a bit as you can tell, but he still gets there, and you can hear him sometimes say a few things to the other people and he kind of supports them through.
No, you've got to go round and then back here and then go that way.
I think he'll be a good role model to people when he sorts himself out.
Proud of yourself. Feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
High five. You've done well, mate. Honestly, it's brilliant. I'm well proud of you, yeah.
I suppose once I helped myself, once I really looked at myself, I was able to offer that support and that help, hopefully that guidance to them, even though they do give me some grief at times, but it's still amazing just to see them grow and to take control of their life.
Who pulled the funniest face, Maddie? Me, you know. Don't say someone else.
You have probably got the funniest face.
Cheers.